and now Dane Kinnaman's coming in. Who, Caleb Rios, who else? Are there other second-generation guys on the team?
Golly, those are three that come to mind right away. Luke Strabel's dad went here, didn't play football here, but went to school here. Just kind of off the cuff.
In yet where you can't talk about them, but has there been a common thread with any of those guys? In terms of coming here and kind of having an awareness, or does that even matter once you get to the next generation?
I think it can help. You just go back to most of our guys don't come from any kind of military background, quite frankly. And so can there be a little bit more to the transition? Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
And with Alec Mock's dad, were you back as a GA?
I was a captain in the Air Force, yes, sir, as a military coach when he was here.
Okay. What do you remember about him as a
hard charger, exceptionally bright, very focused, intense, great person.
And then when you met Alec, did you see a lot of those same traits?
Now Jason's going to get mad at me. I just see a guy that's a little bigger, more talented, runs better. No, Alec has more size. I think Alec's uncle, Jason's brother, played at North Dakota State for the staff now that's at Wyoming. But it is I think if you're asking specifically about Alec, really good student, was a darn good shot putter in track. You can go back and look at some of his marks and his achievements in track too. And a guy that won a ton of football games at his high school.
And now, when you made the decision to play him immediately, as a freshman, I realized there was a lot going on that season, but I assume he wasn't one of two linebackers. You had other options. How was he able to do that so quickly here?
Now, he might have been, and I think Alec, to be completely revealing, might share this with you too. He might have been in a little bit over his head when he was a freshman to start right away. The thing that he's added is not only experience, but he's just physically he's a different person than what he was 22 months ago.
How much of a benefit do you think you'll see on the 22 team because some young guys played in 2020 who might not otherwise have played?
Perhaps. You're going through some of the guys. I guess what you're saying would be, there are guys where that is the case. Not a ton, but there are a few where that is. I think of, maybe Canby Golf or Jaden Goodwin, their involvement. Brad Roberts, played and now he wasn't a freshman at that time, like those, a couple of those other guys were.
Jonathan Youngblood.
Yep. You're right. At linebacker, he played some snaps. I think our team's different now than what it was then. Frankly, there might have been some guys that played that year that maybe other years would not have played, just because we had a good number of guys that weren't here.
And then back to that previous line question with Dane Kinnaman. Did you play with his dad?
I did, yeah.
So what was that like? Did you ever visit their home?
No, they came here every time that it happened. His dad was super intense, great competitor, incredible spirit. Golly, I'll tell you what is neat. When you talk about Jason Mock and Chuck Kinnaman, these are as salt-of-the-earth human beings as they come. But I'd like to kind of needle and tease the guys a little bit. I'm so glad you have a bunch of mom's attributes too, especially the talent and the athleticism, I got to believe. It's, what's incredible is when you look and you see what Chuck Kinnaman's done so far beyond football and what Jason Mock's been able to do well after he graduated from the Air Force Academy.
Chuck was a pilot, right?
He was, yeah.
He's not still serving, is he?
No, I think he's with, I believe he's with Delta.
And with Dane, you've had some burners at that position with, Ben Waters Mike Davis and then Brandon Lewis. Is he going to be a little bit different mold, or does he have that kind of top end speed?
He moves pretty well. Down the field really well. Now his body's a little different. His body probably resembles maybe a little bit more like Ben Waters, although they are two different players. And he's another guy that I think can play a few spots. He did in high school. We recruited him initially and thought this guy can play quarterback, and we just thought he was that good of an athlete coming out of high school. And then he had an injury, getting ready to play baseball his senior year. He's a really, really good baseball player. Ironically, we tried to recruit his older brother, Duke, and Duke ended up being he started as a freshman at second base for Stanford, ended up playing in the, I believe it was the Devil Rays for Tampa Bay in their organization for a while too. So really, Dane same way. Really good ball skills and moves well, and good athlete.
And with Trey Taylor Trey's coming in too, right? He obviously made a big impact last year as a sophomore. How has he grown, I guess, since that point to now?
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned, like, if you said Alec Mock when he played and Trey Taylor, these guys, they have to play at a different level for us this season, and they can. Just watching the way they work, probably more than anything else is the way they interact with teammates now on the field. I think you look at those two guys, especially Trey being a safety, how invaluable the communication is. Just, the recognition that it takes as a safety when it comes to formations. Just make sure everybody knows for sure what the call is. And then any kind of formation adjustments that have to occur if we're going to ghost or we're identifying a bunch or if we're going to point. There's just so much dialogue that has to happen. It's got to be quick. It's got to be emphatic. It's got to be done with some authority too, just to make sure everybody's in cohesion.
And he's another second-generation college football guy. Do you think there was a sense of football IQ that just came from being around the game?
He's been around it for a long time. His dad knows football extremely well. Obviously, Trey's very, very bright. Yet that does not always, to what your point is, it doesn't always mean just because you're really, really bright in the classroom doesn't mean that you're an automatic in terms of, but Trey absolutely grasps football and grasps it.
Are you going to do team captains this season, or is it going to be a game by game?
We'll see. Yeah, I want to make sure that what we always do, we want a very fertile environment when it comes to being able to generate as much leadership from within our team as we possibly can. I'm a huge believer in that. I think it helps your football team, but I think the other part, just individually, I think you see more human growth for somebody that carries forth the active duty too. And so, you try not to make it where it's only four guys that are, being able to offer input or thoughts or whatnot. I like it where coaches are alongside players. I like it when there's a ton of communication, and I think you got to do what you can in terms of being able to spawn that to a degree too.
Brain covered what I was going to answer.
Got it.
Well, I will with Hazik, with a quarterback with that kind of experience. You haven't had a lot since I've been covering the team. You've got some guys back, but never with 2 years behind them. Is there anything that translates to? Are you able to open up different parts of the playbook earlier in the season, or even at this point in August?
Well, I'm trying to think. Last year, he started in 11 regular season games. The year prior to that,
6.
Played in 5 games. He didn't play a whole lot against Boise at home. So there is some. So I guess, you look at it and you can say, are there maybe some things you can do a little bit earlier? Perhaps. But what is that? We got to decide a little bit. We go game by game. What does that mean exactly? And It's we're very, very unique in what we do from week to week. Now we got in, when we start, we roll through August. We got to have a system, and I think we go pretty mass overhaul in terms of the amount of install that we do in the first 5 days, and we do that because there's not school the first few days. Most places you have at least 2 weeks, often 3 weeks before you really dive into school. Well, it changes. As soon as you have school, then we don't see our guys until the afternoon. Where when there's not school, you're able to do some stuff in the morning, then also do something in the afternoon too. So we get close, probably beyond it when it comes to information overload, early in August, and we just got to see what that means in terms of some game plan things once we get into the season. Now, we're going to have to operate a little bit differently. I mean, this year you look who we encounter, the number of teams that have 4-star quarterbacks, right out of the blocks. You look at our first game, the number of guys that we're going to face that were FBS signed with Power 5 schools, right away. I mean, those are real encounters that occur, and because of it, we'll see how much we end up doing game plan wise.
I know you touched on earlier that the team you had last year was a little bit different than the one now. What's made it different so far?
A lot different. I mean, we got a completely new squad. I mean, I think you look at we just had some generational talents last year. I mean, frankly, a guy like Jordan Jackson, golly, I mean, there's no one else. Really, you can go through the archives, and same thing. You look at a guy like Brandon Lewis, and you look at the safety corner combination of Trey Taylor and Trey Bugg, DeMonte Meeks, Dalton King. You take Dalton King, just his versatility, and the different ways we were able to utilize him. I don't know if we've ever had a tight end that had really that ability to adapt like he did. That was a pretty unique talent that way, and so you just have a bunch of holes that I don't want to say holes that you're trying to replace, but you have new guys that are in so many different roles that way, and that's what makes it so challenging. Plus the number of guys that really weren't involved in spring, so trying to generate that dialogue and the strength of that connection, not just the human part of it off the field, but especially on the field in terms of the identification, the instant talk and communication, and so it's a brand new endeavor completely.
Were there any of those players in the spring that you said weren't as involved? Have you seen any of them really step up in the practices that you've had so far?
We're making progress. Now we still have a good ways to go. I mean, gratefully, we still have, at least 2.5 weeks until our first game. We're thankful to have a fully padded practice this afternoon, and just the amount of work that you have to have, the good-on-good work that's necessary. I thought we had a really strong dosage of it on Saturday. We'll have to have it again today, and that helps every single player elevate when we push each other, and we need to elevate. Now we got guys. The fun part about this is how much the desire of this group. You can tell the way they love to compete, the way they love to play, the way they love to work. I think by and large we got a really, really large number of guys that realize the value of being able to go hard on Saturday and then lift on Monday, just because it flushes soreness more quickly. But the other part is it allows you to elevate. And we want to be a team that, as you go later in a season, you see change, you see growth, you see improvement, and I think teams that are of that growth mindset, they play better football in mid-November than they do in August, and we've had a good number of years where that's the case, and just that'll be definitely going to this year that's part of the approach that we're going to have just because of how many new players that we do have in addition to the guys that missed all of or a huge chunk of spring.
You know, as someone who's had a lot of experience now, you know, how do things change when you come into a season like this, when there aren't as many surprises awaiting you?
I think you're just more comfortable, not only with the scheme, but with the guys you're playing with, which is always nice. You can just rely on them more, kind of pick up where you left off last season and keep that momentum going. So it's nice, like, going in camp now and just getting back in the swing of things.
And, I mean, do you feel like you've got a pretty firm grasp on your position in terms of position battle?
Yeah, definitely. I remember, like, my freshman year, it was just, like, coming at you so fast. And then as you get more experience, especially playing in a game, just because there's nothing like playing in a game, whether you're practicing or scrimmaging, getting that game experience is really helpful, just knowing what you're doing quick, being able to recognize stuff, and they do a good job of preparing you for different situations and stuff like that, so that's definitely been super helpful.
And with you and Zeke, I mean, he targeted you on a number of really key situations.
Yeah, yes, sir.
last year. What is that relationship and trust like on the football field, first of all? And then we'll get to the
I mean, I trust him. Like, I know he's going to put the ball in the right place and make the right decision. He's going to make the right decision fast, and, like, our O-line's going to give him enough time to make those decisions. So I 100% trust him.
And what's he like off the field? He's not a guy who's ever really said a whole lot.
He's a great guy. I mean, he always comes up, says hi, asks how I'm doing. You know, real genuine guy. So just always fun to be around him. He's a good leader too. So.
And as an offense, you know, quarterback, so much goes through that position. Can you already see his experience, you know, even on the practice field right now, in maybe some progressions and reads that wouldn't have been there?
Yeah, yes, sir. I mean, as a receiver, like, I mean, you can tell, like, he's very confident. I thought he was very confident last year. This will be his third year. So just having that game experience under his belt, you can tell, like, he's more focused on, like, helping people now and just even making those decisions even quicker this year. So, yes, sir.
Among the receivers, is there kind of a hunger to be the guy who, you know, there's not a lot of catches returning.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So obviously there's
Yeah.
a big void to be filled. Like, is there a fun energy in guys trying to become that guy?
I mean, we're all working hard, competing, but I wouldn't say it's like a hunger to beat someone else out. We're all just trying to, like, help the team in any way we can, and whoever gets a catch or scores a touchdown, it doesn't really matter as long as it's one of us. So that's how we look at it.
Coach Calhoun said the other day that he would entertain the possibility of playing Zach Larrier at a position that's not quarterback. I'm curious, if called upon, would you fill in at quarterback for?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
No.
I think we talked about this in the spring, but, you know, and I talked to Coach about this today, but being a second generation guy here, like, how much did that help, you know, leading into and then when you first got here to have someone who had been through all this before?
I mean, when I asked my dad and my brother, like, how it was, they were just saying, "Oh, you'll figure it out." So, I mean, they weren't, I mean, they were super helpful, and they prepared me and stuff like that. But really, you just got to figure it out on your own. So, I mean, I had more knowledge about it than maybe other people who had no idea what the academy was. Like, I grew up in kind of an academy family. Like, we had Air Force football on the walls and stuff like that. So, I mean, I always knew I wanted to come here. And then once I got here, I mean, it was everything that I could have hoped for. And it's been fun, like, talking to my dad or my brother. Like, my dad mostly about football stuff, and then my brother just about academy stuff. So it's fun to, like, talk about stuff like that with them.
What was your brother? Was he an athlete at all here?
No, he was just a cadet. He graduated in 2017, yes, sir.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. And then with other players on the team, like Alex Locke and Caleb Relos, like, was there any kind of kinship you guys immediately had?
No, I mean, all of us on the team are really close. I talked to Caleb a little bit about, like, his dad coming here and just, like, what he asked him about, like, to prepare and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's cool seeing guys whose dad went here or asking guys, like, if they knew my dad when they were here and kind of, like, seeing how just small, like, the academy world is, and it seems like everybody knows each other, whether they were stationed at a base together or whether they're here playing football with each other. So that's kind of cool to see, like, all the, like, relationships that you're going to form here at the academy or when you're stationed out doing the real thing. So.
And speaking of that, like, are you hoping to follow your dad's?
I'm hoping to fly. I'm hoping to do what my brother's doing, which I think is cool. But whatever I get, I'll be happy with. So.
And what's your brother doing?
He's flying C-130s. So he's in New Mexico right now. But he does some pretty cool stuff. So.
I want to start going back to last year and the start of the season. I think you had mono or something like. What was that like, because obviously you were positioned to get in there and help the team, and you had to have that, and you had the COVID year and everything else. What was it like to wait through another delay before you finally got out there?
It was hard. It was disheartening. I worked my butt off during the off season to get to the point where I felt like I was going to be able to dominate when I got on the field. But those 3 weeks really held me back. Couldn't work out. Couldn't even really breathe well at times. So, but for me to come back and the team be as strong as they were, it turned out to be a really good year. So,
And especially the loss against Utah State. I think that was the last game you missed, right? Well, at that point, were you seeing things that you're like, man, I can do this? And then were you able to actually do those things when you did get in?
yes, sir. So, there are, of course, plays that you see in film that everybody makes mistakes on, but seeing some of those plays and being able to correct those before I actually got on the field helped me a lot to where, we played at FAU and, I had a pretty good first game just off of stuff that I've seen the last 3 games that, I could tweak a little bit in mine.
Now you've had a season.
Yeah.
What's it like now to apply all these lessons, to not be a new guy anymore,
Yeah.
to have fewer surprises?
It's fun getting out on the field, being able to be a leader on the field on the defense, especially with the DB group, getting to share like my knowledge with the freshmen and the sophomores, just letting them understand that the game slows down as you play it, even in the college level in the Mountain West. The practices that we do right now get us well ready for the game. So being able to slow everybody else down around me and just keep my tempo up has been really cool during these fall ball practices.
I mean, how strange is it that, 11 months ago you hadn't played a college game,
Yeah.
and now you're like the leader in terms of experience in the entire secondary?
Yeah, it was it was odd for me at some points, just for I talked with my family during term back, like, wow, you haven't played football in 3 years. This would be your first game since senior year of high school. It's going to be different. The speed of the game is going to be different, stuff like that. So being able to come back now just after 1 season and be in the position I am is a blessing. But at the same time, like I said, it's so fun to be out there like this.
What's the talent level back there?
Oh, man.
So some of these guys played a little last year, but do you think, despite the losses, like maybe the talent is even better?
Yeah, so it's hard to replace people like Corvin and Trey. They're just so fundamental with our defense, just with their knowledge and how much they applied their brain to the game. But I think the skill level that we have right now with Mike and Ian and even Corey, Trey, Zion, we have a bunch of depth at the corner right now. And then we've had people that have played safety, for the past 2 years, coming back as in like Camby. Merg is back with his hand, with his wrist. Jaden Gooden is back, so we got a lot of talent back there. And I'm excited to see how we produce.
Like on one-on-ones, especially in the passing drill, like how are you guys stacking up to the offense?
Oh, we're doing good. We're doing really good. Actually, Coach Calhoun made some comments that we've been strapping some stuff up on the defensive side during one-on-one. So that gave us a lot of confidence going into each next practice. Like we've been building, we've been getting to the place that we want to be, but still got 2 weeks to really get there.
Who do you think the most talented cover guy is in the secondary?
Most talented cover guy, I'd have to say either. I'd probably say either me or Mike. Mike is special with his length, with his arms, and then being able to read quarterback vision off of breaking routes and one-on-ones and man coverage is really impressive that I've seen. So, like Ian has been getting a lot of confidence, and so I've been excited and happy to see like where he's come from since like the Nevada game last year. He's made so many strides. So I'm excited to see how he does too.
And how have things changed with coaching? On the defensive side, a lot of turnover there. Like, is it kind of same system, just different voices, or is there a lot of new stuff to kind of take?
I feel like with the defensive coordinator, you could say that it is a really similar system with a different voice. But whenever it comes to Coach Toth and Coach Jackson, I can't say enough about them. And I've only been with them for 5-6 months now. I love the new change that they've made in the DB room. I feel like it's the support system with the coaches and staff back there is amazing right now. So I can't wait to go into the actual season with them and see how they apply things that we've done during the fall and spring to the actual season. But yeah, I love the changes.
As someone who had such a good year last year as a sophomore, did you consider leaving? Because obviously you could probably play a lot of places, with your abilities. Like, What kept you here, and was that something you even thought about?
No, I never thought about it. I feel like what kept me here was just the opportunity, honestly, after football is over, with whatever route that is taken with me. But on top of that, just the family that I have here that I've gained over these last 2.5, 3 years, I wouldn't trade that for the world. So, being here with people who have done the same things that I've done, and then leaders like Jordan Jackson and Trey Bug, leaving and kind of like giving me the spot to reign has been awesome. So I had to stay. This is our team now. This 22 season is for us, and it's definitely for the seniors. So yeah, had to take over.
What do you do when you're not here at the academy?
I fish. I cook. I hike once in a while. I like skiing a lot. I'm a new skier, but I've been getting pretty good at it whenever it's not the football season. I just spend a lot of time with my sponsor family. They've been a huge support system since I've been here. So I've been blessed to have a lot of activities I can do outside of the USAFA grounds with just being in Colorado.
When you cook, do you have a go-to style or dish?
Italian. I like making pastas. Alfredos are good. They're filling for me, so I get in my calories when I can. I make some red sauces sometimes, but mostly Alfredos.
And summer, what were your military activities, or how much time did you have off?
So I had 3 weeks off. First period, we have 3 periods. First period I had summer camps, so I was with the kids coming in and introducing them to USAFA culture and stuff like that while they're going to their like little baseball camps and stuff like that. Second period I had break, so I went back home, trained with my trainer, saw my family. That was nice. And then third period I was back here doing TCCC, just getting back right with the team.
With Coach Jackson back there, could you see yourself following that? Could you be an Air Force grad who's coaching?
I could. Talked about a lot with my family already, even though as far away kind of. But yeah, if I ever got the opportunity to coach, I would not hesitate. I love coaching. My whole family has been involved in coaching for the past 30 years, in whatever facet. So yeah, I would love to come back and coach.
Do you see yourself doing that a little bit with the younger players already?
I do, yeah. And I love seeing people develop. So being able to be in like the actual coach role would be even cooler than me sitting here and just leading them from the position I'm in.
You talk about how communicative you are with this younger defensive backfield. Coach talked about on the field how much you have to communicate. Is that something that comes naturally to you, being able to kind of bark out where guys are supposed to be and recognizing what the offense is doing?
Yeah, so me and Camby have done a really good job during this fall with just regards to seeing formations, explaining that to the rest of the defense, even predicting plays at times. So being able to give that knowledge to the freshmen kind of just comes secondhand. Like, this is what we're seeing, this is how you can apply it to your game, and this is how you can, be better in the future.
And the way you talk about the secondary with you leading it, it seems like you have pretty high expectations for what you guys can be on the back end of the defense this year?
Last year, we had a few good games on the defensive side with, defensive passing, but this year I feel like we can step it up a few more levels, and I think we will. We have the depth and we have the talent to be able to do it, so I have no doubt that we're going to be able to compete on a high level when it comes to our passing defense this year.
And the difference in the lead up to the season, and I'm sure you guys are up here at the academy and you got so much going on. I know it's probably easier for you to kind of mute the outside noise, but yeah, some of it has to get through in the way that people are talking about what you guys could possibly accomplish this year. Is the excitement level or the anticipation coming into this season a little bit different as a team?
So I feel like we've always seen the expectations that we've had throughout the years. Last year, I think we were slated to be like 7-5 or 8-4, and you know we tend to surpass that. Seeing things like people saying that we're going to be going undefeated and stuff like that, like, yeah, it's cool, but we all understand that's up to us. It's up to the players on the field. It's up to a week-by-week basis. You got to go 1-0 every week. So excitement is always there, don't get me wrong, but I think we all understand that it's definitely up to us game by game.
In one-on-ones, who's the toughest receiver to contend?
Toughest receiver got to be Amari Terry. He's low to the ground. He makes his breaks really quickly. He's a good catcher, so he has pretty strong hands for, I guess, his size. So guarding him in one-on-ones every day, you know, I might be going against taller receivers, but skill set wise, he brings everything that I need to the table to where, you know, when I'm going against him, reading his feet and his leverages and stuff like that, going to get me ready to go against like the Mountain West receivers I'll be going against.
What kind of raw speed do you have? Like, what's the best 40?
Best 40 hand time. I'm gonna talk about hand time. 4.5. But I've been working on my speed a lot this past off season during the summer. So hopefully that is down a lot, and I've seen it a little bit in the last scrimmage that we had and during our team sessions. I felt really good at running the ball down and getting to where I'm supposed to be on the field. So I've been feeling really good with that.
How much do you go against the tight ends in practice as far as defending that when they go out to catch passes? How much do you go against them?
We defend them a lot. We probably go one-on-ones 6 times with them total. So we see a lot of them, and we have a lot of talent there too. A lot of strength, a lot of size, a lot of height. So I'm excited to see how our tight ends do too. That's going to be a strong part of our team also.
Yeah, that's why I was just going to ask, is your scouting report on the tight end position group?
Of course, you can't wait to have somebody like KP back. I saw what he did or what he was capable of doing whenever I was doing turn back. I had a really good game against Army. I think he got another good game against Boise State. It's awesome seeing that skill being able to come back once we get him healthy. But when we have people with length like Caleb Rillos, that's going to be really special whenever it comes to getting out of the backfield and catching the ball. So I'm really excited to see how those two do.
Is it true that your dad would put the Air Force letters on top of the stacks when you would get
Oh, yeah, it's very true. I would come home, and actually he would take some mail away. He never told me that, but he would save some in another stack. I'd always be so excited to get home and see my letters, and I'd just, see like 4 Air Force letters on my table. And I'd be like, oh, man, where'd the other ones go? But no, I'm just glad that it landed like it did. So it's a blessing.